Well, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Ferrari, and I'm the CTO of ClearDATA. I'm pleased to be joined today by Conor Colgan, who is a colleague of mine and the AWS Technical Product Manager for ClearDATA. And today, we really wanted to talk about a new solution that we've been working on for quite some time and really rolling into the upcoming event that was to be HIMSS. And before we do that, I wanted to quickly give those of you who may not know a little bit of who ClearDATA is, and really kind of give you some background on why ClearDATA exists and kind of our passion and our mission for the organization. So first off, I'll tell you that we have a 100% focus on healthcare and life sciences organizations. And literally almost everything that we do is around PHI and PII, around security, compliance, privacy, and really automating how to use the public cloud to protect these sensitive workloads. One of the ways that we do that is we provide a comprehensive solution from end to end across clouds for security and compliance requirements. You think about changes inside of regulations like compliance as it relates to HIPAA or GDPR or GXP, or maybe changes inside of the public cloud as it relates to new public cloud services as they're constantly launched, changed, featured, bugs come out. And then finally, you think about changes inside of your own healthcare app as it relates to PHI and PII, whether it is at the operating system level, or maybe it's at the application level as you're rolling out new versions of your clinical application, as an example. And ClearDATA really focuses on how can we keep those things secure, compliant, private at all times, really waking up every day thinking about how can we protect your and my patient record. But today, we really wanted to talk a lot about some of the ways that we are transforming healthcare, and really excited to have Conor with me today because we're going to be talking about one of the new products that we're launching in a market to do that very thing. However, if you take a step back, there are still healthcare organizations out there that are both on the early part of their journey. Maybe they're thinking about how to get started with public cloud, and then moving forward kind of in the continuum. Maybe they're moving to infrastructure as a service and public cloud, kind of dipping their toe in, or they're moving to platform as a service as they think about cost optimization, or they think about reducing the threat around running operating systems in the cloud. And then, of course, using more cognitive services, or maybe it's big data services or unstructured data services or analytics or machine learning. And that's really where we're going to be talking about the thing that we're so excited to talk about today from a launch perspective. But when I hear some of the challenges that healthcare customers actually face as they're bringing forward these software solutions, but the challenge is, how do I do it and innovate safely kind of in this this world of tumult at this point? You really kind of have to think about a balance. And I love this quote from Dr. Partovi. I have an opportunity to work with him within our AWS partner ecosystem. And this quote from Healthcare IT News in January, talking about really the exciting things that AWS and the broader industry is really was expecting to talk about both at HIMSS and throughout 2020. And kind of the concept here is that as healthcare continues to innovate on the public cloud, organizations like ClearDATA are looking for ways to bring forward that software and services that solve those healthcare encounters. And I will tell you that one of the key challenges there is oftentimes there are really exciting public cloud services that are launched, and maybe they have HIPAA eligibility, maybe they can be behind what's known as a business associates agreement, or kind of that promise of indemnity and notification of, I will protect your PHI, I will protect your PII, and here's how I do it. And if I don't, here's how I'll notify you and I'll respond. But the challenge really is, how does it go from the great, these features have been launched, this service has been put out in the market, to how do we actually consume those services? How do we do it in a compliant and safe way? And that's why we exist. And so we have a deep history with AWS. I would tell you that since 2015, AWS and ClearDATA have been working together and actually have been in a booth together at HIMSS every single year since 2015, focusing on how can we safeguard data while leveraging public cloud services. And ClearDATA is proud to be a premier consulting partner and certainly one of the first in the world to ever obtain the healthcare and life sciences competencies years ago. And we continue to expand not only our portfolio of services, but we continue to expand our expertise as it relates to not only AWS, but that privacy, security, and compliance focus. One of the other things that we have is we also have a managed services organization that focuses deeply on, even beyond all of the automation and compliance regulation and all of the products that we have, they focus on being AWS experts. And so these folks are AWS certified individuals that deeply focus on striking a balance between understanding next-gen AWS services, along with being able to provide that healthcare expertise to our customers. And look, that's an unfair advantage if you think about it as it relates to ClearDATA. Here's a list or portfolio of some of our customers, and ClearDATA not only has the opportunity to understand AWS, but that unfair advantage is that we have hundreds of customers that count on ClearDATA to store, process, and transmit PHI or PII for them every single day. And so we learn from that. We understand common traps that these healthcare and life sciences organizations fall into. And really, there's a deep focus around continuing to evolve the ClearDATA platform for the use cases that you see below as it relates to early, let's say, lift and shift, all the way to modernization of platforms to move into kind of that DevOps or more that transformative nature, so that you can become a born in the cloud, cloud first healthcare organization. I wanted to talk a little bit about the value that ClearDATA provides from a customer journey perspective. There's 4 kind of points that I'd love to talk about on here. And the first one is actually on the left, and that is all around acceleration. And, I think when I think about acceleration, I think about healthcare organizations. They want to move to the cloud. Maybe they're already there for certain workloads, but they really have a specific sticking point. And that is, how do I not only move the PHI into the environment, how do I keep it compliant over time based off of those 3 key things that I mentioned earlier around changes in the state of compliance, changes in the state of regulation, and changes within the AWS or the public cloud environment themselves. And so as you think about those things, that's ClearDATA's focus. It's, focused on helping those organizations that leverage PHI to actually innovate. And we've got hundreds of companies behind it where we're building out this architecture, we're creating a compliance framework, being able to present that to a CISO or maybe a chief privacy officer to show that you can drive innovation and also maintain compliance. And oftentimes those things seem to be at odds in conversations when you're talking about traditional healthcare IT. ClearDATA focuses on how to navigate that cloud journey so that you can actually see the benefits of the cloud from an acceleration perspective. The next I'd want to talk about kind of is automate. So that upper left part, which look, a lot of what's happening in the public cloud is super manual as it relates to compliance. You think about doing some kind of HIPAA audit or some kind of security risk assessment, or maybe you're filling out documents to provide to your CISO about how these services actually work. Because look, it's going to be a journey. While public cloud's been out there for a long time and there's many services now that are HIPAA eligible and BA eligible, the truth is that there's still a transformation happening inside of these enterprise healthcare organizations where maybe their compliance and security divisions don't understand public cloud as well as they should, because they're instead focused on some of the safeguards around how to pass an Office of Civil Rights audit, just as one example. And so what ClearDATA does there is we focus on building out automation, and we call that automated safeguards. It's one of our key features. It covers over 32 popular services, automatically configures them so that they're compliant when they actually use the AWS service. Then, very importantly, we monitor all those technical controls to make sure it remains compliant. Look, if you've talked to me before, you know that I would tell you that it's pretty easy or straightforward to follow an AWS white paper as it relates to security and compliance around HIPAA or other safeguards. However, how do you keep it compliant when your application needs to be patched? How do you keep it compliant the first time that you add a practitioner, nurse, doctor, remote access to the account environment and your architecture changes? How do you keep it compliant when it's time to have auto scaling on or time to adopt a new AWS service into the ecosystem? And that's what ClearDATA does from an automation perspective. So picture determining from a rules engine or a deviation model. Anytime there's some kind of deviation from a state of compliance, flagging that and automatically remediating it, which leads into my third point. ClearDATA is either going to remediate that change and put controls in place to make it compliant, or if it can't be automatically remediated in a rare case of a service that doesn't yet have that capability, it's going to open up an incident or a ticket and notify our 24/7 managed services healthcare team on exactly what's going on and how to remediate that. It also really shows from a demonstration perspective that state of ongoing compliance. If you think about ClearDATA's history or lineage, it was built in how to actually show healthcare organizations that they themselves were compliant. And that led to ClearDATA becoming HITRUST certified as early as 2014 and still to this day. And so ClearDATA has the ability from a demonstration perspective to actually show visually how compliant am I at the individual workload level all the way to the application kind of roll-up level. How compliant am I almost near real time across the cloud platform? And so we have a compliance dashboard that shows them exactly all the way from all the way down to the AWS service. How compliant are they? And you got to think, okay, how could you possibly do that? HIPAA can oftentimes be really high level, kind of generic. You will have a backup kind of stuff because look, it was written in 1996, way before AWS was out there. And so ClearDATA focuses on opinionation, really, and that's steeped in things like HITRUST and NIST, really getting deeper than some of kind of the generic wording and language and showing in a visual dashboard style, specifically the subset or the CFR for that HIPAA regulation in this example, and specifically how does ClearDATA interpret it, and then how compliant is it? And so that really eliminates a lot of the burden of ongoing compliance so that you, the healthcare organization, focus on the application itself and really can leverage the benefits of the cloud natively. As I close on the ClearDATA piece here, I would tell you that this dashboard spans not only different regulations from a framework perspective, but it also focuses on your use case. Let's say, if you're listening today, let's say that you need to present a report on a monthly basis to your CISO. Or worse yet, you have a yearly audit from your third-party assessor or a random audit from the Office of Civil Rights, which can come in at any time, as we all know. And so ClearDATA has the ability to not only show this near real time, but also get snapshots, right? See point in time. Am I getting better over time? Do I have a culture of compliance inside of my organization that is constantly improving my standing? Can I download a report that I can then just walk over to my CISO and give it to him rather than fill out and understand what's going on inside of each and every one of my AWS environments? And that's what ClearDATA is built. And that's a combination not only of this dashboard capability, but it's backed by all of that automation and remediation that doesn't just report the news, but it's actually showing very specifically how you can remain compliant throughout the cloud lifecycle. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what we're launching today, and then I'm going to hand it off to Conor to actually show you firsthand how it works. And look, we know that data is extremely valuable. I've been fortunate enough to have attended many HIMSS and many of healthcare events throughout the year, and things like data interoperability and the ability to actually use data that I've been sitting on in structured and unstructured databases or data warehouses, or the back ends of EMRs. These are constant conversations that that we all have, right? If we're in healthcare. And so we know that the data is valuable. There are so many healthcare organizations that are leveraging or looking to leverage their data in different ways and realistically improve patient care or maybe even monetize it over time. But look, the challenge is that security and compliance requirements often, prevent the data from being utilized, right? Because you don't really know what the data is, or you don't have an ability to be able to identify how that PHI, inside of the environment affects a patient. And so there is there really are a lot of examples out there that we should talk about. I've had clients that are sitting on these massive data sets and they want to run machine learning models against them, but they can't because of these restrictions and really kind of the unknowns inside of their environment that, as they think about still protecting PHI as their primary piece. So how does healthcare get access to these insights? And so today we are talking about and launching a data masking solution that's going to provide this, custom and flexible option to actually free the data. So you think about all of the various types of sensitive data from, as it relates to PHI, from age to name. And Conor's going to walk through some of this, but picture the ability to identify that data and be able to mask that data so that you can safely go to your CSO, to your CISO and say, now I am okay to use it. And so really, really excited about the launch of this new solution in the market called Locate Mask. And with that, I would love to turn it over to Conor Colgan to tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I kind of wanted to start and talk a little bit about what Locate Mask does, how it works. As Matt talked about, it allows customers to choose which identifiers they would like to redact or mask in the data. This is going to run as software as a service, so customers can submit data from anywhere. You can start with data streaming to an API, or even, as I'm going to show you, use a friendly interface to mask one-time files. This allows you to create those more valuable data sets that don't have all of the sensitive information. And as we think about some of the use cases that customers have talked about, we move towards the ways that we've heard customers want to use it. So if we think back to the quote we showed earlier from Dr. Partovi, if we think about the machine learning capabilities or the transition that healthcare is making towards using these more machine learning models, this is where it's really important to use a masking tool. So this allows customers to take large data sets of both structured and unstructured data and remove the less valuable but more sensitive data, think names or social security numbers or email addresses, but to leave the valuable data that still allows you to build that machine learning model. Think of things like ages or locations, because if someone like myself walks into a hospital based on certain attributes, such as my age, my location, my symptoms, you can build a model that can help predict outcomes, but you need the real world data of those ages and those locations. So I think this is a really exciting opportunity to allow the use of these larger data sets while removing some of that sensitive information. Like when I walk into that hospital, my name doesn't impact the outcome. My social security doesn't impact the outcome, but many of the other identifiers might. Some of the other use cases we've heard from customers are around creating lower risk development environments. So if they want to allow either outsourced developers or data sciences, or even to their own team to start creating sandbox environments or development environments, staging environments to test their application, but they don't want to have the most sensitive data go through that staging or that development. They can mask all of the potential identifiers to create a lower risk environment. So whether they don't need the tightest controls, they don't need the most security or compliance, and that allows their teams, frees their teams to start using more emerging technologies or new components or services from public cloud vendors, or even new processes internally. And you can also use it for data review or data sharing. So as you think about what Matt talked about with interoperability, and more organizations trying to work together to share data. This can allow you to, again, use the more valuable pieces of the data, but not share the most sensitive. You know, if you think about those large population health data sets, they want to contain things that make up the population, the ages, the locations, symptoms, some of the other identifiers, but not so much the names and social security numbers or email addresses. And this allows a lot easier sharing of data, mostly for the unstructured data. Sometimes in databases, it's very easy to pick and choose what you want, but it's very hard with unstructured data. So this service is backed by natural language processing that can detect and determine if there's data in this unstructured data, which makes up much of healthcare data. So today, Locate Mask supports a variety of file formats, including text, JSON, as well as PDF and JPEG and PNG images. I talked about how it supports both structured and unstructured data, and we're backed by some of the most powerful natural language processing services that the public cloud offers, including Amazon's Comprehend Medical. It's very easy to use. The service is available through an API endpoint that you can simply stream your data to, or again, as I'll show you in a second, it's going to be available through our portal as well. So why don't I show you what that looks like today? So Matt, if you don't mind stopping your share. So you can see here, this is the ClearDATA portal. This is where customers come to access Locate. And to make it as simple as possible, we're going to mask one file here. And I'll show you what that file looks like. It's a one-sentence sample text document saying, my name is Conor from ClearDATA, including my age and email address. And in fact, this is my medical record. If I put that file in, I can select which identifiers here that I want to mask. So for example, I'm going to select to my name and age, and we'll select to mask the data. If I wanted to, I could again select email address or something different, depending on what the requirements are of what I needed. So when that masked data gets returned, you'll be able to see the text has changed. So we'll download the file. And you can see and compare from the original that it masked my name and my age. If I were to run the test again, just to show an example of what it would look like, if I wanted to mask my email address or simply select all, again, it would go through and any identifiers that we support, it would find those in the text and would redact those so that the next time I look at the file, the only information that will be in there is ones that were not determined to be identifiable. So in this case, it just talks about I am someone from ClearDATA. And again, we support medical images and medical forms. So to show you an example, here's the identified or sample medical form of an individual. We obviously have names, we have lots of identifiable information in here. We can selectively redact that information as well. So if you look at, I happen to select names at this point, and you can see the names of the physician and the patient name. Those were all redacted from the document. And the PDF is returned to you as a PDF. So if you want to submit large amounts of PDF data to get redacted, you would get it returned as a PDF. And we also support medical images. Today we support JPEG and PNG. And you can see in this radiology image, we have a name and we have an age and we have a date of birth. And again, we can selectively mask and redact that data so that we can remove the names or any identifiable information from an image that, again, you could then build, say, a clinical trial sample that you could train a model or even train clinicians on. And that's where Locate Mask is today. ClearDATA's Locate family of product actually offers a couple of different products. Today, we're launching Mask. We also have a service called Locate Trace that's available. This allows customers to track or trace PHI as it flows through Kubernetes microservices. And this is really important for organizations as they move to these more emerging technologies based on Kubernetes, that you still are able to track and identify where your PHI has been. So you could look at what services touched PHI and which PHI records, And that way, if there was ever an incident, you could go back and ensure the scope of the incident affects how many particular patients, or you can even just use it for a stronger audit record so that you can say this particular service is touching PHI. This other service, say hosting my marketing website, has not touched PHI, and here's how I know, here's how I can prove it. And that's available today. And ClearDATA is going to continue to look at where we can help customers with their data compliance and data needs in healthcare, as we talk more and more about these use cases that Matt brought up in the beginning, and where we can help our customers. With that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Great. Thank you, Connor. And I hope that everyone is as excited about Locate and Locate Mask as I am. I feel like this is kind of a tipping point, and thanks in part to not only ClearDATA's development team, but also our partners at AWS. We're really starting to be able to explore how to use more of the healthcare data that is already inside of your environments, rather than just lift and shift it or move it or transform the database behind it, how to actually put it to work. And so really excited about Locate Mask. Thank you all for joining today, and I hope that we speak soon.